I chose this lesson because it shows that the students can be self-directed at a third grade level, and it shows if you set up guidelines that the kids can create their own literature circles and be self-directed and still get what you're wanting out of the lesson without you needing to be there with each group. And it also gives me time to work with my students that need a little extra help with reading. So once I put this into place, it gives that structure that then I can start doing small group and reaching the kids that need that extra attention, and then the other kids are still getting a great experience out of it also. The learning outcomes are to hit the reading anchor standards, and they're going to be just having a group discussion, really focusing on talking about the book when they're done and making sure that they understand what they're reading, and also building, it's kind of a mix of language arts but also just working together and having discussion skills. And some of the students are great readers, but they can't talk about what they just read. So it's reaching all the students in the fact that some, I just want them to get through an entire book, through a quarter, and there's other students who need that practice of talking about the book when they're done. So there's a lot of different things I'm trying to hit. Also just them having that independence of being able to read in a small group without a teacher hovering over them. So there's actually a lot of ultimate goals, but really it's reading and summarizing and understanding the story. When the groups finish, they go back to their seats, because we're not all finishing at the same time. They go back to their seats and they write a summary of what they read today. For my lower groups, I just say give me one sentence about each chapter, because I know that they're needing a little more help with it. But I get kids who are writing half a page, a full page, summarizing what they read. We're also creating a ongoing map for social studies where they're mapping the character's journey. So when they finish every day, they do their summary, they update their map, any places that she visited for that day, and then we're also keeping track of character traits. So they picked one character to follow throughout the story, and they're updating how the character is evolving and changing throughout the story. So all three of those help me see, are they understanding visually what's going on with the map? Do they understand what they just read through the summary? And then the character traits, how they're thinking about their characters. And then I also switch up the groups I work with. My one group always has to be with an adult, but because I have another adult come in, I kind of we rotate through all the groups. So we'll at least work with one group one day through the week, so I can check for understanding when I work with the groups also. Because not necessarily the higher readers are getting the most out of it if they're not really stopping to talk about it. Well, that is one thing. For third graders to be doing independent groups, I couldn't have done this first quarter. It is the second, third, or fourth quarter thing I need to do. I do roll it out. We do wonders in the beginning of the year, and I try and do one day a week where they work in small groups so they can get practice and see how the structure should be going and the expectations. So there's definitely a built expectation already in before we start, but they also have a sheet in front of them of guidelines and expectations, you know, that they need to make meaningful contributions, they need to respect whatever everybody's saying in the group. So they have a list that they can reflect to. I pick a leader every day, switch a leader in the group, and they kind of are in charge of making sure discussion is happening, making sure that everyone's getting a chance to share, and those expectations that are pre-built and the expectations they have as a reminder are what make the groups work. And there's days that, whatever it may be, a full moon or extra windy or just Valentine's party, that they're a little more, I have to maybe get up. I'll tell my group, you know, okay, talk about what we just read, and if I have to get up, I'll go redirect a group. But it doesn't happen very often because they're pretty into the story and they wanna finish and be able to talk about it. So, but it did take work. It did take practice before they could get to this. I wouldn't suggest trying this first quarter by any means, because they need to learn what it means to work in a small group, especially at third grade. Well, we don't really have like a big overall question. I do have some discussion questions that they can ask if it doesn't naturally come. Most of the time they're so excited, they're naturally coming up with wonderings and questions, and we do the Philosophy for Children Circle, so that helps them know how to build those wonderings and those questions where they're predicting and they're already trying to think ahead of what's going to happen next in the story, or I wonder who this character is, because there's a lot of characters that they have connections into the folk tales that are embedded, and you slowly start to realize that. So the kids are already getting that discussion, but I do have some just open-ended, like, was there something interesting? Was there something surprising? Do you have a connection, or do you have a wondering? So those are the stems that they have if they're struggling with coming up with discussion, but usually it's just that natural want to talk about what they just read because it was a really exciting part. Well, like I said, they're really into it, so it's engaging in the fact that they're into the story, but they love talking. I mean, they love talking to each other and sharing their ideas, so giving that discussion group that they're in a small group and they're required to talk about the book, I mean, I probably wouldn't have to make it a requirement because they want to talk about it and they want to share, like, I think this is what's going to happen, or I think this is who that character really is. So that naturally just happens because they're in those small discussion groups. It's relevant because I've made it into an entire unit, so we are studying Chinese culture, we're doing it through social studies, we throw it into math here and there, they're reading it every day. The kids are really excited about this story, and so they come in every day like, how many chapters do we get to read today, or are we reading today, because there's days here and there we have to skip. So they're definitely invested in this and the process and trying to get through this story because it's an exciting story. And then it's also meaningful, like I said before, there's students in third grade who've never completed an entire book. I mean, besides a easy read or picture book, and you see these kids that they finish and it's just like a light bulb goes off, like, that's how it feels when you finish a story. They get that feeling of pride and the excitement that the story had a finish and it ended and they completed it. Because I think a lot of times your lower students may have a chapter book in their hand, but they're reading just a few pages here or there and trading out the book. So for a teacher, for me, it's most meaningful to see those few kids that have never read a complete book read a complete book and the satisfaction they get out of it.
And why do you think they're so excited about the text?
Part of it is because it relates to their culture a little bit, because it's Chinese culture. There's a lot of similarities of Hawaiian culture in there, but it's also just, it's a little girl, she's on an adventure, there's a dragon in it, so that pulls the boys in too, and it's just, they love how exciting it is. I mean, I read the book before I taught it and I couldn't put the book down, so I also play it up like, this is the best book you're ever gonna read, and I get them all excited, so it gets that buy-in for the kids before we even start, when they see how excited I am. And now that I have a teacher who comes in just during reading time to help me with small groups, and she gets excited about it, so there's just that all-around excitement for the kids, and they're ready for it.